and good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're enjoying your day so far. So I'm going to start with a few questions. So by show of hands, who in the crowd is seeing reductions in search keyword performance? Okay, few hands. Who's been impacted by the cost per click inflation over the last 2 years, so across platforms? Okay, a few more hands. And finally, is your brand or your client's brand seeing declines in performance with less people searching for it year on year? Any hands? Okay, a few less hands. Cool. Okay, so if you want to suggest to any of those questions, obviously you're not alone. There's quite a lot of hands on the second one specifically. Over the next 15 minutes, we'll go into the why and start to understand the shift from keywords to conversations. Great introduction. I'm Kyle. I work for a performance marketing agency up north called 26. I've got about 10 years experience at PBC. Over the last 3 years, we've really been focusing on pushing clients' brands forward. So we've done a great job of driving revenue and hitting ROAS targets, but the focus in the last 2 years has been how do we grow brands? So I'm going to start off with a quote. It's from the British marketing tycoon David Ogilvy. The quote goes, "The customer is not a moron, she's your wife. You insult her intelligence if you think a mere slogan or a few vapid adjectives is enough to make her buy anything." And I think that relates very much to search and social today for two main reasons. So it's the manual approach to search and social. And what I mean by that is massively complex paid search campaigns, hundreds, thousands of keywords, built out really manually. I'm still seeing manual cost per clicks, impression share. And then from a social point of view, similar, really complex campaigns, overuse of interest targeting, heavily relying on cookie-based audiences. And then the second part is budget allocation across the funnel. So across a lot of e-commerce brands, especially new e-commerce brands that potentially have brick and mortar, a lot of the focus is put into bottom of the funnel activity. So we're seeing that 95% plus of a client's marketing spends going into Google Shopping, Facebook DPAs, and that's a massive problem. It's kind of, I'm going to call it goal hanging. You're kind of waiting for somebody to purchase at the point where they've already made the decision, and that's the reason why a lot of brands are seeing a decline. This is what we're going to go through now. So if this looks familiar, kind of just explained on the last page, we've got so many clients who, again, they kind of want a high ROAS. You kind of explain to them they need to do awareness in order to grow the ROAS, grow the revenue overall. They say, yeah, great, we want to do awareness. But in fact, obviously, all they really care about is the ROAS and the revenue. We do need to diversify spends in order to kind of move forward with what we're doing. And yeah, hopefully I can kind of go through that. Before I kind of go into that, I want to kind of look back at the start of search and how search began and the role of search. So yeah, before the search engine, there were directories. So you've got your yellow pages, you've got your BT phone book. And the point of these directories were to store phone numbers, businesses, services, and many more things. And they did play a real kind of vital part in the marketing strategy. And that's what I mean, one vital part of the marketing strategy wasn't the marketing strategy. As time's gone on, and with the arrival of the internet, Yahoo launched in 1994. It wasn't until a year later in 1995 where they added a search function to their platform. Over the years, the development of search engines have kind of moved on, and that's due to the competition from the likes of Microsoft and Google, but the basic search functionality pretty much remains. And I think as a industry, we've done a really good job of combating that. So we'll go through a couple of strategies that we've kind of implemented over time as an industry. So we had head term and long tail campaigns, which everybody will remember kind of building out quite granularly. Match type campaigns or campaigns by match type, ad groups by match type. Intent-based campaigns, again, we're getting a little bit more sophisticated. We're trying to split things into by, near me. And then finally, and I suppose this would be further across, but finally, I just wanted to give a shout out to everybody that went through the scagging phase. That was a phase where we split out single keyword ad groups, and those campaigns were obviously massively complex, and for the time it worked really well, but obviously we moved on from there. So I'm going to read out a really complex search query now. So this is a search for dress for an outdoor wedding in Miami in May in a trending colour with 2-day delivery. And I'm getting people looking at me in kind of weird ways in who would search this. And that's the point. I think most of us wouldn't search this because we know that the results I would get back would be pretty poor. So I searched this on Bing, and I mean, based on this search query, you'd assume it's somebody looking for a dress to attending a wedding. On Bing, we've got wedding dresses. It's really kind of poor results. On Google, it's slightly better. On my first search, I didn't get any shopping. I just kind of got organic listings, and we've got some people also ask. It looks like they are breaking down the query a little bit, trying to understand what we're actually trying to get from it. It doesn't exactly know what I'm trying to get to, but it's got an idea that it's not kind of that one query, wedding dress, and pulling those wedding dresses up, it's breaking that down. So Google's a little bit better, but not quite there. So over the years, millennials, and I am really generalizing now, millennials have adapted to search, and we think about the limitations before we actually search. And because of that, we make multiple queries to kind of get to our main search. However, Gen Zs are demanding better experiences from search. They're using longer, more unique queries. They're using social platforms for search as well now. In fact, 64% of Gen Z say that they've used TikTok for search, and those kind of stats are increasing. So for the stats on Google, so there are 100,000 searches every second on Google. That's 8.5 billion searches every day, and that's 2 trillion searches every year. And can anybody guess how many searches are new to Google? Shout it out. 10. Okay, so it's 15% of new searches to Google every single day, and so that's 1.2 billion searches every single day on Google. For that reason, going back to the initial point, we can't build out every single keyword in an account. Skagging's not going to work. We can't have thousands, hundreds of campaigns, so we do need to kind of lean onto AI. So kind of going back to this initial search, I'm going to play the first 30 seconds of the Google GSC show reel, because that's kind of going to show us where search is going, and then what we can do as search and social advertisers. It's got a delay. It's buffering. Wait. Or maybe skip it. Might skip it. Shall we move on? So.
I'm only going to talk like,
wow. Okay, so I want to give it one more try, because then you can kind of explain the search thing when you record for it. I'm giving up on it. So yeah, maybe at the end we can go back and we'll see if it plays, but essentially it did pull out that search query that I said before, so that really kind of long search term. Why did I use that search term? They did pull it out in the show reel for the GST, and they basically brought back a load of different search results. So instead of it just being your standard shopping and your organic, it obviously pulled in the generative search experience, and that's why it included the dress from a shopping point of view. It gave you the option to follow up. So again, for the 2-day delivery, somebody added that, and then it came up with the merchants. The point I was trying to get to with there is there's kind of 2 main things that we need to do. We need to feed the AI, we need to give it all the information it can so it can serve those results. And the other side will be around being more creative. What can we do now to grow brands and not, again, try to beat the system of Google, which we've obviously been growing, and that's what we've kind of done in our career. So that kind of moves to this slide. Like somebody in my CS team actually referenced my team as market traders the other day, and I think we're at this point now where we do need to move from market traders to marketeers. And what I mean specifically by that is we can't just wait for somebody who's already made the decision with an ad, whether that's a shopping ad or a Facebook DPA ad, to purchase. We need to get kind of forward, influencing people's decisions before they're actually ready to make them. It's easy to understand why so much focus has been put in shopping and DPAs. Obviously that's where the revenue's been and that's where the ROAS is, but we really do need to double down and focus on pushing and nurturing audiences before they've made that decision. So what can you do today? So obviously I only have 20 minutes today, so I don't want to go into too much detail. And so I've got a couple of links as we go through the next part. I did a blog called Don't Fear AI, Feed It earlier on this year, and there's a link here if you do want to go into more detail. Before I kind of go into the 4 main pillars of that blog, I'm just going to kind of say a quote that's been mentioned a couple of times. I've been to various Google and Facebook conferences over the last year, and that is, you're not competing against AI, you're competing against marketers that are using AI. That's really important for us to use. Don't be scared of AI, it's here. We need to use it to make sure that we're doing a good job of what we're doing. I asked the 3 questions at the start. Cost per clicks was one of them. AI is helping us reduce cost per clicks. People that are using manual approaches, that's where you're seeing cost per clicks are higher. So it is very important to leverage and use AI, feed it the data. So to that point, the first point of feeding AI is data integrity and measurement. So that's including everything from first-party data, so consent mode, enhanced conversion. So for your bottom of the funnel activity, making sure that the data that it's using to optimize, that's sound. And then that will obviously then move on to everything else. So everything from mixed media modeling to experimentation to brand studies. Any activity that we're going to do outside of search, we need to make sure that there's a way that we can measure it so that we can focus and push our push our marketing budgets into those areas to actually grow the brand. And the second part is shopping feed management. So again, shopping and DP ads will play a vital part in marketing strategies. That's, we do so much kind of branding. Like in this room, we've got a lot of search marketeers. So we're at one side of it. There's a lot of other brands at the other side where they're doing massive TV campaigns and they're not doing anything on this side. So, shopping and social DPAs will play a massive part in what we're doing moving forward. Shopping feed management impacts both of them. That's doing everything from using your search query reports, adding those keywords into the titles, making sure that Google product categories are up to date. If you need to use feed management to structure your shopping campaigns slightly differently, so by margin, make sure that you're focusing on profitability. Shopping feed management is kind of the core of what we're going to be doing on PMAX and social. Optimizing towards business goals is a really important one. So I mentioned over the last few years, we've been focusing more on clients' business objectives and growing brands. So again, often when you take over a client, you get given maybe a budget and a ROAS target. We've been trying to dig a bit more deeper into that with the clients, and a couple of the guys that I've been speaking today have already mentioned what they're doing to help improve the quality of maybe leads or conversions. But yeah, optimizing towards business goals is important. So again, we all know what the strategies are. You've got your ROAS targets and your max conversions from a Google point of view, and you've got your maximized volume on a Facebook point of view. That point that it's optimizing towards needs to be crystal clear. So if it is a specific qualified lead, you need to be using your integration to feed that to Facebook. If it is margin and profit, you need to be getting your profitability data into Google, so it is optimizing towards profitable conversions. Whatever the objective is, we need to make sure that we are feeding that to the AI so it can help us meet those goals. And the final one is creative excellence. So creative often gets left behind, especially when it comes to PPC. Across the board, creative is the number one driver of ROI. Don't let it be an afterthought. That's something that you do need to feed it in. And AI does use creative to improve the performance. So understanding your audience, who's actually coming through your PMAX campaigns, all your Facebook campaigns, and then factoring that in with your creative will definitely supercharge your performance. And the second thing, keywords are still important, but don't be subjective. So going back to the AI point, there's billions of searches every single day. With those searches come different contexts. So people can search for the exact same thing, 2 different people search for the same thing, and the context will be totally different. The signals that Google and Facebook get help understand the context, and the smart bidding strategies then optimize based on those signals, and that's what gets in the performance. So keywords are still very important, but just don't be subjective with them. And with that, obviously, we need to be using broad keywords and matching that with smart bidding alongside with all the stuff that I mentioned with AI. I think some people are still quite scared of broad keywords. We're seeing fantastic results with it, and I suppose there's 2 main things with it. I've said it lots of times, but ultimately, we need to use AI so that we can reach more people. With broad keywords, we've almost seen it more as like intent signals now. So as opposed to trying to get the exact keyword that you think somebody's going to search to find your product, you need to almost get a selection of keywords which relate to your business in some sort. then you've got your bid strategies aligned with it, and then that will cast it wider. What that does, because we can now serve ads to a wider set of people, instead of inflating your clicks to get more, you've got more people to go after, which means your cost per clicks don't need to increase at the same rate. So broad keywords are a massive part of what we need to do, and that will also help your keyword performance again relating to the start of the deck. And finally, from a Google what can you do now point of view is use your insights. So the insights tab is available across Google Ads now, and it's there for us to actually do something with the account. So with this point specifically, and kind of going back to my last point in the previous slide, use this to inform your creative. It's great when you kind of set up a campaign, PMAX for example, and you get the revenue and the ROAS is really strong, and it's like thumbs up. Use the insights to then feed that campaign and take it even further. So if you do have something that you know about the campaign from these insights, so if it's women, if it's people that are in a specific category, use that, feed it into your ad copy, feed it into your creative, and you will see performance improve via CTRs, conversion rates, etc. Cool. And with that being said, more conversations are happening obviously outside of Google and Bing. 1 in 3 consumers are spending more time making decisions and considering brands. People are 3 times more likely to buy from a brand in their initial consideration set. And 50% of consumers watch an online video before making a purchase. So what can you do to have conversations? So the first step is identifying your audience. The second step is addressing the barriers and speaking to the motivations of that audience. And the final stage is mapping out the stage of the funnel and activating media across it. Got a couple of slides which I will fly through. I'm looking at my timer. But mapping out audiences. So a lot of people will be like, yeah, my audience is families or kind of first-time buyers. Go into what makes somebody a first-time buyer. Go into what makes somebody a family buyer. By understanding that, you'll understand what their motivations and what their barriers are. And then that goes into your next step, which is your messaging. So if I am a holiday provider and my main audience is families, then they're going to have certain barriers and motivations which are different to somebody who's going on a clubbing holiday. Pulling those specific things out, mapping that message to the specific audiences will push that campaign on. And then finally, activating across the funnel. So within PPC and paid social, there's things that we can do that I suppose a lot of e-commerce brands aren't doing. So that includes everything from demand gen campaigns, video for action campaigns, and then obviously from a Facebook point of view, you've got your video and your traffic campaigns. But think outside of that as well. Like we've got so much kind of at the hands of, I heard somebody speaking about Netflix before, obviously you can activate that via Microsoft, but these are just kind of a selection of some of the stuff that we do at 26 to help our clients with brands. So we help clients push the brands forward. I think the great thing about activating programmatically is that we can do everything that I've mentioned. You can map your audience, you can find your specific audience, and match that up with, fantastic creative which resonates with those specific audiences. Cool, and then I've said this already, but creative is the number one driver of ROI. Don't leave it to the end. So again, the client will be like, Kyle, I want to do CTV. I kind of have to go back and say, well, why do you want to do CTV? What's your objective? But ultimately, a lot of the focus tends to be around how can I target a person? Where shall I target the person? And then at the end, it's like, then here's some creative. The creative is the biggest driver of it, so you need to kind of start with that and then push that across whichever channels fit with that specific creative and the message you're trying to get out. So just remember that, kind of pull creative right to the top. It is the number one driver. Cool, so I'm just going to finish off with a couple of case studies. The first one being one from 26. So Fortnum & Mason are a luxury gifting company. We've worked with Fortnum & Mason for over 10 years. Within that 10 years, we've done everything from PPC, programmatic display, SEO, affiliates. And I suppose as they've kind of grown as a company online, we've I suppose grown with them. Last year, they came to us with a challenge. Given the cost of living crisis and the drop in overall web visits, they wanted to launch a Christmas campaign online. Their audience is highly affluent, so we worked with MasterCard to identify the top 20% of spenders. The motivation for their audiences do like high quality products, and there's a high affinity across heritage brands. So we worked with their creative agency who created a highly engaging and fun ad which resonated with that specific audience. And then we activated across a full funnel video, which included web, social, and CTV. So Sky, ITV, YouTube, social. We got over 3 million views. During the period that we ran the ad, there was a 12% increase in website visitors. At the same time, their key competitors saw a 25% drop in web visitors. So the campaign was massively successful for us and obviously for Fauna and Mason. The next two are some that I've just pulled out. So this one's from JD. And this was run across their own, or should I say, own channels on social. They were targeting people, obviously, like them, follow them, and engage with JD. Motivation was to capture people that are trendsetters, people that want the most up-to-date clothes. It would have been really easy for JD to do like a bestseller ad and put it on Facebook, which you guys probably see a lot. This is playing in a second, but yeah, essentially they did like a fake flight post type thing on the Big Ben where they put a North Face jacket on top of it. Again, this was without any ads. We managed to get 2.5 million views. It got picked up, posted onto national websites, other social groups. And again, this is just kind of going back to that point around creative being key. They managed to use creative to really push their message on. And finally, this is a company that's been around for 110 years. They took their sales from 100 million to 700 million in 2023. Can anybody guess which company this is? Again, shout out if you know it. Stanley. So yeah. So Stanley's core audience is male traders. However, another audience was identified. So that was a female audience between 25 to 50. The main barrier for Stanley's was the lack of appeal for the product. So if you don't know the traditional Stanley, it's like a really ugly green flask. They worked with a couple of influencers and they got feedback from the market in general, and they were kind of told the design's not that great and the colours aren't good. So one of the specific points was around the variety of colours and specifically pastel colours. They then worked with influencers further to push out the products. They worked with selling channels. They worked with resellers, and they activated across paid media, and obviously that supercharged them. But anybody in the crowd thinking it's because the woman's car burnt, actually got a free car, that happened like here. So, I mean, the campaign that they did around building a product around all the insights that they got, that's what has taken them from 100 million to 700 million. Cool, so I'm going to leave you with a final quote. Don't be a bore. You cannot bore people into buying your products. You can only interest them in buying it. Thank you.